In this video, you'll see a tutor and learner work on an application form using a strategy called divide and conquer. It's a way of splitting up a large project into smaller, easier tasks. First, they'll scan a form to identify and list information and documents they'll need to collect beforehand in order to complete it. This action also allows the learner to see the form in all its parts before actually beginning to fill it out. Then, since it's important to find out what a learner already knows, the tutor will ask the learner to highlight terms on the form they feel confident about. Next, they'll copy down terms they aren't so sure of onto separate index cards for focused practice. The tutor and learner pair can repeat the last steps of this process until they complete the form.
Hey Amanda, how was lunch?
Pretty good. How about you?
Oh, it was delicious.
Good.
Yeah, I enjoyed being outside. We're getting ready to fill out some applications. Now, what applications are you familiar with?
Job applications, somewhat library applications, and that's about it.
Okay. What do you notice about applications? What are some things that you know are pretty standard?
They ask a lot of personal information like name and address and phone number, social security number, and things like that.
Okay. How much of that information are you comfortable putting on a form?
If it's for a job, then I'll do it all.
Uh-huh.
But like for a library or something, then I would not give my social security number.
Okay. And why not?
They don't need it for a library card or anything.
They don't. And it's too accessible, perhaps.
Right.
Well, some of the things that make filling out forms difficult, can you think of some?
I would say maybe spelling and also trying to make sure my writing is legible.
Thank you. And when we say legible, we mean easily read by others.
Right.
So, because sometimes people write S's, they look like 5s. Is that a 2? I don't know. Is that a D or an O?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So you definitely want to make sure that your writing is legible. And you're absolutely right about spelling, because spelling is so key. One misspelled word, and you've changed who you are. So, especially if they can't read it, if whoever's reading the form can't read it. And what I've noticed about a lot of forms too, if you're not used to seeing them, you miss information. You miss little tables and lines. So that's another thing that makes filling out forms difficult. What do you need to have when you're filling out a form for a job or a library card?
Identification.
Yes.
Like driver's license or state ID if you don't have a driver's license, things like that.
Okay. And do you know that they ask you questions sometimes that you need information that you don't normally carry around? For example, phone numbers of people, especially in today's age. We have our phone numbers on our phones. We just hit one button and we're calling someone. And my daughter's phone number, I don't know it by heart. I mean, literally, she's my daughter. She lives in my house. I don't know her phone number. But those are things that you need to know sometimes to fill out a form correctly.
Right.
Now, Amanda, when I say strategy, when I say the word strategy, what comes to mind?
I think of strategy as a mental tool that will help you with steps in order to complete something.
Excellent. That's exactly what it is. It's a tool that you can use, and it has specific steps that you do in a specific order. And that way, when you're consistent with how you perform a task, then when you'll get consistent results. So the more consistent you are in performing the task, the more consistent your results will be. So a strategy is one way to make sure that that happens. So a step-by-step process. So you were absolutely right. Let's see. And when you use a strategy, you become an expert. And that way, when you make a mistake or you see something doesn't come out correctly, you can retrace your steps. Where did I go wrong? And you can start from the back and work your way to the beginning, or find out where the faulty information came in, which would prevent you from having a correct outcome. So good idea to use a strategy.
Okay, great.
And the thing is, we're going to use a strategy for filling out a library information, a library card. But guess what? You can use this strategy for many things. Like I said before, sometimes filling out an application is difficult because you don't have all the information that you need right at your fingertips, or you may not remember everything you need to know. So what we're going to do is I'm going to tell you about a strategy called divide and conquer. You know how when I always tell you the way to accomplish a large task is to break it down into bite-sized bits. And that's what this strategy, divide and conquer, does. There are 3 steps, and you can use it for many, many things. We're going to use it in regards to this application, but I want you to think about these different steps. The first thing is find and collect all the information that you're going to need so you'll have it. Have you ever tried to bake a cake?
Yes.
And then you get it started, right? And you got the beater going, and then you go to reach for a particular ingredient, and it's not there.
Yep.
And not only is it not there, it is not in the house. So you have to go out
And get it.
Well, when you're filling out an application, you don't want to have to stop, go out and get what you need. So make sure you have all the information that you need to complete the application before you start. And one way to do that is by making sure that you're familiar with the form before you begin. Also, highlight the questions and answers that you already know so that you can use my favorite colors, but you can use any highlighter on a sloppy copy so you can familiarize yourself with the form and know the answers the questions that you already have the answers to. And that way, you only have to focus on the ones you don't know the answers to.
Okay.
So you want to make sure that you know the answers to the questions and highlight those so that you'll be able to focus on the ones you don't know. Sometimes on these forms, there are all kinds of words and terms that you might not be familiar with. There was a question about whether I was a special veteran or something. I don't even know what it was. Well, I am a veteran. I didn't know what they meant, and I had to look it up before I could continue because I fit that description, I just didn't know it. So before you start filling out your application, make sure that you have written down terms that you're not familiar with and become familiar with them again before you start. Because one of the most difficult things about completing an application is you want to make sure your spelling's correct, you want to make sure that you answer the questions appropriately, and you want your form to be legible. But if you're making mistakes and crossing things out, then that makes your form look not as unacceptable, and it will make people have a different idea about you than what you really are.
Okay, so don't turn in the sloppy copy.
Do not turn in the sloppy copy. So I want you to scan this form, and you know what scanning is.
Isn't scanning where you take a quick look at it to see what you need to do?
That works for me. I like that definition. Scan the form to see if you have everything that you need. If they're going to ask you questions that you need more information and to complete it. Oh, proof of identification. So do you know your current driver's license number or your passport ID?
No, I don't.
So that's something that we'll need before we can continue to complete this form. That's one of the items in step 1. which is find out what information you need to collect. What's next? Oh, student ID number. Do you know your student ID number? Your K your K number?
Not yet.
Yeah, me either. I've used it several times and I still couldn't commit it to memory. So you'll need that. So that's step one, which is finding the information that you're going to need to fill out the form and having it ready.
Okay.
So you ready for step two?
Yes, I am.
Step two is highlight any questions
Yeah.
that you already know the answers to. So if you would like to grab a highlighter,
Okay.
pick your favorite color, one that you won't mind looking at, and then highlight the ones that, or the questions that you already know the answers to.
Okay. So the pink would be what I do know. So then I know my name, initial, and personal information. And I know where I live. I don't think any of these apply to me.
Good. So cap that, and let's start with the ones that you don't know.
There is one thing I'm not sure exactly what it means.
Okay.
Can you help me with it? This word right here, not only is it hard to pronounce, I don't know what it means.
Okay, that word is proprietorship. So why don't you jot that one down
Okay.
and write proprietorship on that card
Oh,
more readily. And spelling does matter. And when you have a model for correct spelling, always use it.
Okay. Here's the word written down. Proprietorship. What's that? Proprietorship?
Patricia? You might want to type it in.
One last time.
Okay.
Proprietorship. Hallelujah. Okay.
And what does it say?
Proprietorship is a noun and it means the state or right of owning a business or holding property.
When I'm using or creating cards, I write the word and I write a sentence using the word, and then on the flip side, I would write the dictionary definition. So go through the rest of the application and look for words that are unfamiliar to you.
Okay.
You'll create a separate index card for each word that you're not sure about.
Okay.
So Amanda, now that we've gone through and done the 3 steps of divide and conquer, why don't we complete the application as a sloppy copy?
Okay.
Fill in the application and use any information that you need that you've collected already in step 1.
Okay.
All done?
Yep.
Excellent. We've got ourselves a form. Yay! Let's make sure we have everything filled in, all the information. Now, the only thing that we should leave blank are things that are intentionally left blank, because we want to make sure we don't have any missing information, because that can cause a delay or even your application to be denied. So we're going to make sure all the information is filled in. We use a sloppy copy because we want to make sure we have all the information that we need. We have everything spelled correctly and all the questions answered. So now that we've completed the form on our sloppy copy and we know divide and conquer, the first step being, what are you going to do for divide and conquer? What's the first step?
Scan it.
You scan it to look for the information that they're going to ask you for, or the information, any documents that you might need to help you complete.
Okay.
And step 2 is that's where you're going to highlight questions that you already know the answer to. And then step 3, identifying any words that you don't know And then once you write them on index cards, then we get to do fun things with them, like play games, concentration, or any number of different things. I can come up with hundreds of things we can do with the index cards with the definitions on them, because it's one of my favorite things to do.
I'm always ready for fun.
Yes, and it will be fun.
Uh-oh.
Divide and conquer. I know that this is it's a special term, and it's probably something you might have done already, but do you think that you would do it again?
I do.
And why?
Because it helped me to know in what steps to do the application in order to be successful in filling out and turning it in, and even getting a better chance at completing what I'm actually filling it out for.
Excellent. And with Divide and Conquer, it forces you to see the application as a whole, because once we become familiar with various applications, it's easier to see the different parts, especially if you go through it in a strategic way, step by step. Because when you're consistent with how you proceed, then you'll have consistent results.
All right, sounds like a plan.
Sounds like a plan to me too.
Okay.
You've just seen a tutor and learner divide and conquer an application form to complete it successfully. Breaking up larger tasks into smaller ones is an ongoing activity and a skill to practice in adult literacy tutoring. Teach your learner to carry this mindset with them when approaching all sorts of writing and learning in general.